Sound check. Brian Alston. Can you hear me?
Yes, yes.
Excellent. Thank you.
Go ahead and call the meeting to order, and ask the secretary to please call the roll.
Director Green? Present. Director Harrington?
Present.
Director Lowry?
Bill, are you online?
I'm online.
All right.
Thank you, sir. Director
Thank you.
Robinson?
Present.
And Chair Ryder?
Ryder is here.
You have a quorum.
All right. Can I have a motion to allow, Commissioner Lowry to, remotely participate in the meeting as a voting member? So moved. Motion's been made. Is there a second?
Second.
Motion's been made and properly seconded. Any discussion on the motion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? The ayes have it. I almost
Thank you.
remember Hill used to go, same sign, which is an old archaic Robert's Rules of Order.
Oh.
You never know, you never noticed
I
that?
never noticed that.
The next regular meeting of the Finance Committee is scheduled for Friday, February 7th at 10 a.m. Is there any public testimony today, Debbie? Anyone registered?
We did not receive any registrations for testimony nor any written.
All right. We'll move right along. First item is the December 13th, 2024 Finance Committee meeting minutes. These were approved by the board at the December meeting, but are being presented for the committee's review and discussion if necessary. Are there any corrections that need to be made to the minutes? Any corrections? I want to thank Director Harrington for conducting the meeting for me last month as I was indisposed. I would accept the motion. I would accept a motion to accept item 3A, the December 13th, 2024 Finance Committee meeting minutes. Is there a motion? So moved. Motion's made. Is there a second? Second. Motion's been made and properly seconded. Any discussion on the motion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? The ayes have it. All right. We're now going to go to action items. It's my understanding that we have, is Charles here? There you go. Charles Jones, our Chief Procurement Officer. Charles, where's the other half of the list? Oh, okay. My gosh, it's like I went into a time machine back when 19 was the max we used to have.
Sure. Good morning, Charles Jones, Chief Procurement Officer. We have before you today 18 contracts and 1 expenditure item. Of the 18 contracts, 13 we have responsive letters back from the Office of Contract Compliance, and 5 are in process. So 1 and 2.
Yeah, we're gonna first hear 1 and 2, which are gonna be presented by Aaron Gleaner, our Chief Administrative Officer for Health Plan Services. Aaron, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Chair. Good morning, Directors. The first item is for our dental and vision benefits claims management. We have previously included dollars for the administrative fees as a result of an RFP process we went through. This amendment is just now adding in the claims dollars associated with that contract that will be paid out to providers when providers bill their dental and vision claims. This next item is a 1-year renewal of our contract with Milliman for actuarial services, 1-year extension for a total of $2.9 million.
Any questions for Aaron? Hearing none, thanks, Aaron. We're now gonna go to 3, 4, and 5 that are gonna be presented by Dr. Rudy Kamopoli, our Interim Chief Medical Officer.
Good morning, right-hand directors. I'll be presenting 3 new contracts, all for 36-month term, ending January 31st, 2008. The first request is to execute a contract in an amount not to exceed $300,000 with Coloplus Corporation for products and services to plus titanium touch and surgical supplies. This equipment will be used by our urology department. The second request is to execute a contract in an amount not to exceed $229,000 with Holdings USPOC for the supply of Quantra homeostasis analyzers and supplies. This equipment will be used by our cardiothoracic, trauma, and orthopedic teams. And the last request is to execute a contract in an amount not to exceed $150,000 with Oxygen Inc. and subsidiaries for the product nerve graft surgical supplies. And this will be used by our oral and maxillofacial surgeons and also the plastic surgeons. Thank you.
All right, are there any questions for Dr. Kamopoli on items 3 through 5? Hearing none, thank you. Thank you. We're going to go to items 6 and 7, being presented by Scott Spencer, our Associate CFO.
Curtis Haley, Chief Revenue Officer.
It's Curtis. She put Scott.
I know.
I know Curtis. Curtis didn't get to present last time I chaired the meeting. They had to rearrange everything, so.
Yeah, I'll take this one, Scott. All right, so good morning, directors. Curtis Haley, Chief Revenue Officer. The first request you have is a request to extend and increase our contract with Medowit. Medowit performs our early out services with outreach calls to our patients, help them align with our financial assistance programs, payment plan arrangements, and just assist them through any of the questions they have with the patient portion of their bills. This is a request to extend for 1 year while we go out to RFP. And the second request is a request to extend and increase our contract with Imagine. This is a request to utilize our second of our 2-year renewal options in the contract. Imagine offers staffing for our cancer registry services.
Any questions for Curtis? Hearing none, thanks, Curtis. Scott, we'll be hearing from you later. All right. Item 8, Health Information Systems. Our Chief Information Officer, Angela O'Banion.
Good morning. Luma is the vendor that we use for our various patient messaging, for scheduling, anything that we want to communicate to them via text messaging services. We have replaced, we issued an RFP, and we're in the process of working with the new vendor, and this is will take us through the entire rollout period, which is very slow, and we'll have some redundancy to ensure that there is no service interruption, to ensure that our KPIs for no-shows, et cetera, continue at the current rates of improvement, which have resulted from all of these text messaging, et cetera, services that we've been using the last few years.
Any questions for Angela? Hearing none, thank you, Angela. We're going to now go to, this is the big one, big stretch, 9 through 14. Operations Development, Craig Williams, our Chief Administrative Officer.
Thank you. Good morning. This first one is for Hillrom. It's an extended increased contract for $149,500, 12-month contract, extension 10/1/24 through 9/30/25. And they provide complete parts and labor to maintain our 240 Hillrom beds across Stroger. This is obviously critical to maintaining our ability to, provide beds for our patients. The next is Dixon. It's an amended increased contract for $810,300 for the remainder of the contract period through 10/31/26. And this, they do temperature monitoring across CCH. So this is for the provision of equipment, installation, software licenses for those temperature monitoring systems across all of our sites. We are adding additional locations which require upgrade and services, which is the reason for the increase. Interstate Electronics, this is an amended extended increased contract for $1,035,034, 12-month contract 5/1/25 to 4/30/26. They provide maintenance and repair on our nurse call system at nurse call and overhead paging at Stroger. They're performing the expansion of the system to the 8th floor patients' rooms with an upgrade to the overhead paging system. This is a sole source because it's the vendor that we have the equipment from now. We actually also, just for the committee's note, we have a capital improvement project that will replace this system towards the end of this contract that we're just kicking off.
Craig, do we not have a paging system on the 8th floor right now, or is it an older system?
It's an older system that we're providing advanced capabilities for. Okay. We've found that there's been some inconsistencies on people being able to hear the overhead paging, so we're putting some improvements in around that. Got it. So the system's just not uniform across the floors right now. No, and we also recognize, and Bina and her team are working on selecting the kind of next current state system that we'd want to operate at Stroger. And that will end up informing a new system at Providence too.
Is this a technical question? Is this a wireless system or a system of wires?
It's actually hardwired. Right. Yeah. Yeah. And honestly, I think we feel a little bit more secure on that based on, technology coming up and coming down. Security. That's part of, we do, we just replaced the nurse call at Providence, which was a kind of quasi-wireless system, and so we're expecting to get much better results from that system that we just installed.
So I would assume that the only reason why you would go to wireless would be if the infrastructure you're trying to install is within,
yeah, for the
get into the wall, it should be,
Yeah, and that was the issue at Providence, right? Like, it's all cement walls and being able to expand that rapidly. The other thing, just is, and Angela can certainly talk about this, but just the network bandwidth on this, if you go wireless, is pretty significant. So.
Yeah, I would assume so.
we actually didn't move forward with the wireless nurse call at Provident because of those bandwidth issues there, so.
I would be concerned at Providence that you probably have to have a lot of repeaters for wireless there.
Yeah. I'm out of my realm.
All the plaster and steel.
Yeah.
Concrete. All right. Sorry for interrupting.
No worries. Universal, Allied Universal is an execute contract for $16,733,748. It's a 36-month contract, beginning 6/1/25 to 5/31/28. They augment our police department at Stroger, and they provide the full security services at our ACHN clinics as well as Providence. We selected that they are our current vendor, but we selected them for this 36-month contract through an RFP process, and this contract includes 2 one-year renewal options.
Okay.
Anchor Mechanical is an execute contract for $9,080,000. It's a 60-month contract, 2/1/25 through 1/30/130. They provide boiler and chiller maintenance and repair services for Stroger, Providence, the professional building and core. And this contract also has 2 one-year renewal options.
We haven't we've done a contract with Anchor before, right? We just haven't done this contract?
That's right.
Okay. Who was doing the chiller maintenance?
I believe it was Anchor. This was a result of an RFP, I believe.
Yeah.
Oh, that's why there's no prior contract
Yes.
history. It's because this isn't an extension. Got it.
Sorry. I'm not sure if Anchor did the maintenance and boiler chiller or not, but we've had, someone do it. Currently, Anchor does our refrigeration and ventilation for sure at both places, so.
Eckenhoff Sodders Architects is a execute contract through our CIP for $258,000. This is a 36-month design contract, 3/1/25 through 2/28/28. And this is for architectural and engineering design services for the renovation of the sterile processing department at Stroger. This is really going to be kind of a full redesign of sterile processing, which will allow for us to just get more enhanced efficiency as well as ergonomic workflows for the staff working in that department.
All right. Any questions for Craig? We'll be seeing Craig in a little bit, too. Next up is Donica Austin Cathy, our Chief Hospital Executive, and Jim Shufan.
Good morning. Good morning, Chair, and good morning, Directors. Good morning. Okay, so before us, we have, the first one is an increased contract with the vendor Central Admixture Pharmacy Services for compound sterile pharmaceutical solutions in the amount not to exceed $300,000. The vendor will provide compounded sterile preparations and delivery for TPN pharmaceutical solutions. The next one is an extended and increased contract for trials for delivery and postal services in the amount not to exceed $1,100,000. The revised contract period is 4/1/2025 through 3/31/2026. This vendor will continue to process the pharmacy transactions, manage the pharmacy connectivity between the pharmacy and the health plans, and will continue to improve upon our medication accessibility and delivery. The next one is an extended and increased contract for Vitalant for therapeutic apheresis services in the amount not to exceed $265,666. This is a sole source. This vendor provides therapeutic apheresis services for patients These procedures include the therapeutic plasma exchange, the therapeutic leukocyte depletion, and the red cell exchange. Again, this is a sole source because we want to make sure that we can provide the continuity of services for our blood and blood product service provider. And the last one is an execute contract with Relay Health Pharmacy for pharmacy claims management in the amount not to exceed $393,000. The contract period 5/1/2025 through 4/30 of 2028. The vendor will continue to provide the pharmacy and pharmacy claims management services. Also provide solutions to streamline the communication with our patients, providers, payers, pharmacy, in order to improve patient care.
Thank you, Danica. And then Craig's got one last one. Sorry, Craig, I would have moved this one up.
Sure. So this is for favored healthcare staffing. This is related to an emergency request for care coordination for the migrant crisis. So we basically overspent the contract by $162,353. This happened as a result of the rapid changes that we were employing within our migrant health program, and specifically around the engagement that we provided at the landing zone. So we rapidly increased resources, and my team didn't keep up as closely with the contract increase amounts that we need. So we have some old invoices that we need to resolve, and so we're asking for the availability to pay those invoices.
Okay. Any questions for Craig on this? All right. Thanks, Craig. If there's no questions, Charles, do you have anything else on any of these items?
No, sir.
All right. I would take a motion to approve item 4A, contract procurement items containing request numbers 1 through 19, subject to completion of review by contract compliance.
So moved.
Motion's made. Is there a second?
Second.
Motion's been made, properly seconded. Any discussion on the motion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it. All right, Charles, back to you.
Okay, so thank you. Before you, we have the report of procurements under the authority of the Chief Executive Officer, contracts under $150,000 for the final quarter of 2024, September, October, and November. A little summary, 34 contracts total. All were responsive with the Office of Contract Compliance. 16, or approximately 50% of them, was for our FY24 capital equipment spend down as we purchase capital equipment. 13 of them were TPO contracts, and a few of them were for grants. So they are in alphabetical order, just highlighting a few of the ones, high dollar ones under $130,000. We have Cardinal Health. We brought freezers for laboratory for $130,000. Covidian Sales, Endo Flips, disposables, $129,000. On behalf of pharmacy with Denver Solutions, which is lighter, we bought supplies for 503B, outsourced products there, $125,000. Debbie can flip the next page, please. Thank you. GE Medical, we bought ultrasound for the Department of Medicine, $122,000. Integra Life Science, gall clamps, base units, and headrests, $119,000. Qualls & Brady, legal service contract for general counsel, $149,000. Independent locum tenens, Stephanie Tierney for obstetrics and gynecology, $124,000. Superior Ambulance, we did EMT training for human resources, put on by human resource for this EMT training, $108,000. And then finally, an independent physician, independent consultant, Susan Costello, $125,000 on behalf of nursing, interim director of nursing operations. Any questions about anything specific on the list?
Any questions on any of the contracts under execute under the authority of the CEO.
Okay, thank you.
No emergency purchases.
No, not for the month of December. We'll be coming at you next month.
All right.
Yeah, we'll get you January 1, that's next month. Thank you.
All right, I am going to, let's see here. We're going to go to items under the Chief Financial Officer, and we are going to be doing you're up, Scott. This time it's you. Our grant award related items. And then you get to stay there. You have another report from you.
Yeah, I get to go back to back. Could you make this slide slightly larger? Apologies, I didn't open this slide on my, yeah, okay, so, before you, we've got 432,000 of grants, of which, a new award of 132,000, one, is, an extended increase for 87,000, and then a 200,000 renewal, for a combined total of just over 432,000. Questions on those? Yes, Director Harrington.
Any
Okay.
questions?
No.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, I see that this was from the Chicago Department of Public Health.
And if no questions on that, I'll move on to the financials.
Do we have any questions on the grant award related items? Okay. Then I would seek a motion to receive and file item 5A, the grant award related items.
So moved.
Motion's made. Is there a second?
Second.
I think it was your turn, Sam. Motion's been properly seconded. Any discussion on the motion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it. Okay, that's the last motion of the day. Scott, you want to take us through the year-to-date, this is going to be the year-to-date November preliminary financials. So this will be the whole shooting match.
All right. Yes, sir.
Exciting.
Yeah, so good news to report, net income of 52 million, favorable to budget, on an accrual basis, and 258 million, favorable on a cash basis. The net patient service revenue, continues to be, unfavorable, due to decreases in collection rates and increases in charity care. However, capitation continues to be favorable to budget due to higher than budgeted county care membership. On the expense side,
Jack, can I jump in real quick?
yes,
So on the cash basis, being 250 to 652 million.
258.
258?
Yeah.
So if I'm understanding that correctly, because it's 52 million-ish on an accrual basis, that means we're also carrying forward money, that we had favorable in prior years as well, including the differences that we have with the county and how they do there.
Right.
So,
Yeah, the difference between the county books being on a cash basis and the 52 million includes a lot of accruals that we put in for expenses that haven't been paid yet.
yeah, this story tells me that we didn't just do good this year. We've been doing good. We've been building, which is incredibly positive and makes me happy considering that how long I've been on this board. So, thank you.
I have a question. What is our definition for charity care? What is charity care?
So any patient without the ability to pay.
Is that a decision made in advance or subsequent to the visit and the charges? Because there's been this issue about uncompensated care, and does it fall into charity care, or it's a separate bucket?
So as a patient presents, and Curtis, if you want to jump in here, feel free, but as a patient presents, we make every effort we can to collect insurance.
Absolutely. Yeah, Curtis Haley, Chief Revenue Officer. So I can answer the question for charity. Any patient that's under the, I think it's 600% the federal poverty level, has proven their income is in that range, given their household size, will qualify for our charity program. And that essentially is free care that we give them. And that could be before, it could be after the services. And it is included in the uncompensated totals can run into charity. If they don't qualify for that and or any of our other programs, then it could roll into bad debt, which is also part of our uncompensated care.
Do you know what the percentages are?
For which percentages?
The ones that determine when they come to the hospital and the number of patients that don't pay and have left the hospital.
Our uncompensated care is around 18%, I believe, at the moment. And then of that 18%, some of it rolls into charity, some of it rolls into bad debt, and so forth.
Okay. That's helpful.
So let me ask a question. When you say bad debt, you made a definitive statement to say that that's someone who hasn't paid.
Correct.
But on charity care, you say that's a person who cannot pay.
You could still have someone in bad debt that can't pay, but they haven't completed all of the paperwork, supplied all of the proof of income and all the other requirements. And or if they have, and it's been proven that they do have the means to pay, they have just chosen not to.
So essentially, it's uncompensated care is two buckets of debt that's forgiven because of the federal guidelines for poverty and ability to pay, and the bad debt is people who have the ability under the guidelines to pay, to be signed up for insurance or health coverage, and just don't, and then we pursue that bad debt. Obviously, some people could present with no health care coverage, and we convert them to county care or somehow connect them otherwise, and then that potential uncompensated care then turns into some sort of compensated situation. So
how good are we at the conversion over to county care or some other plan?
So it's called MANG when you sign someone up for Medicaid. That's the first thing we try to do is get them covered through some insurance plan before we go to charity or anything like that. So that conversion rate is around 85%. 85% of completed applications get approved by the state. So you have roughly about 15% that flow through as denied, and we have a partnership with a company called Great Lakes that handles all of our secondary appeals with the state on those that fail.
Okay, but there's a number that you didn't give me as far as if I have 100 people coming in the door and that they don't have it, what percent of that 100 am I able to actually, they all don't have insurance, but for some reason, some people will do it, some people won't do it. That's the number I'm looking for.
Gotcha. So you're saying out of the 100 self-pay patients, how many of those actually apply for Medicaid coverage or charity?
Right, because the person who is admitting them, the belief is that they should be able to get some type of insurance, whether it be county care or whatever.
Sure.
So therefore, you will ask them to fill out the paperwork. How many of them say yes? How many of them say no?
I don't know that one offhand. I'll have to go back and see that.
I think maybe a little bit of clarification on that, because so you have people who come in. I mean, that bears out. That might be a hard data point because let's take your example. Those 100 people, those are not people that are coming in with any type of commercial health insurance or through coverage through the ACA or our own managed care network. You're just talking about 100 people that come in with nothing.
I'm talking about 100 people who come in with nothing, who present with nothing, but it has been determined that they could possibly be a candidate for the insurance. So then the request is that, hey, would you fill out this paperwork? At that point in time, they have a decision to say, will I fill out the paperwork or won't I? That's the question I'm asking.
How many people decline to fill out?
I think he understands the question.
Yeah,
Whoa. I'm trying to understand the question too.
Okay. I'm sorry, I didn't realize that, okay.
Because I think this is also a navigator question, and we have navigators that whose job it is to do these sign-ups when people are being admitted.
Curtis, is it recorded anywhere that this, like, do they drop a note? Is there something in a flow sheet that the navigator's given paperwork and we're expecting a response, or is there any way to pull?
So the process, there's multiple touch points with the patient to get them engaged, whether they're here or at home. So I would think you would want to include all of that, not just one subset of those touch points. When you look at all of it, when I think about your question, I think about, okay, who hasn't gotten coverage? Who hasn't at some point? Maybe you said no, or maybe you didn't meet the first request, but maybe the second or third one you have. But who hasn't received coverage? And then when you look at that, ultimately it's uncompensated care. It's either the charity care that, okay, you didn't qualify for coverage through Medicaid or accounted care for some reason, but you have proven that your income is low. So you look at charity care to group those patients in. So they didn't say no, they actually completed all their paperwork. So the no people are the bad debt individuals. Those patients that are classified as bad debt.
So that's 15%.
Yeah.
Right.
What I was going to suggest, rather than speculate, I mean, you could just come back with a number at some point. Give you time to actually analyze it and see if the number is what we're looking for.
And there's I know you already are experts. AHA actually has some guidelines on this. Charity care is actually budgeted expense. It's not in other places classified as bad debt. It's a budgeted expense for the community, and it does not roll over. It stays out of, when you start writing your budget, the bad debt category. And that could be a guideline consideration. I'm sure you already know, and for whatever reason are bubbling it all in, but
I don't think we include charity care and bad debt. That's bad.
Oh, I
charity
thought
care
they
is
said,
not rolled into bad debt.
okay,
No.
I thought I heard
No.
you say it.
No, it's two separate categories.
Yes.
But they are rolled into
uncompensated
Okay.
care.
Thank you.
It's rolled into
Thank you, yes.
uncompensated care, which we have to account for because of the county, because being a government body, we have to account for money in, money out.
And the essence of my question is really leading to, if we measure that point that I'm asking about, then we can look and see, is there something else that can be done so that we can actually get these folks covered and we can get paid? That's the essence of my question. Because if we're not measuring it, we don't really know. We have kind of an idea, but we don't know. And that's an opportunity that we can't afford to miss. Unless the numbers prove we're at 95%, then okay, we're doing pretty darn good.
Sure.
But short of that, there's an opportunity there.
But we're at 85 right now, is what
Not for the number I asked.
Not that it, right.
Okay, all right.
The 85 is the approval rate for those that fill out all the paperwork for the
Gotcha.
Medicaid application.
Gotcha. Who manages, whose line of sight are the navigators in? Are they in your line of sight, or are they in someone else's line of sight?
I don't believe the navigators are in my line of sight.
No, are they, because that might be where
For the
most
ACHN?
of the, what's that?
It's for ACHN operations, is that what you're?
Yeah, like who's handling?
Yeah, so there's, right now, it's a little bit kind of scattered depending on what the role is and what
Okay.
department they work in. There is kind of an overarching restructure discussion that's going on. So
Yeah,
it's under one umbrella.
To go back to Dr. Robinson's question, the question is there an opportunity somewhere in this discussion? And maybe you're not prepared to tell us that, right?
Well, he has to look at numbers.
Right.
Because there are multiple points, right? The question is the opportunity, because we have the hospital in itself, with both hospitals. Then you also have the clinics.
And there are a lot of people coming through there, and if, we may find that we have a really good opportunity. And again, it's gonna take a lot of creativity, and so Alex is gonna have to help us out again. But the opportunity may be there, but we don't know until we measure those numbers.
Yes, we'll get the data on that gap, and we'll take a look at it and see where the opportunities are at. I mean, someone may already have this analysis, I guess, is one of the things that I'm wondering. So that's why I asked within whose line of sight is it? Because there might be someone already wrestling with us.
The bad debt numbers I have, I just don't have them at my fingertips right now, so I can gather that pretty easily. I will say that from fiscal year 23 to 24, bad debt did go down. But in that population, I'll report back.
And I'm just saying, check out the clinics too, because I don't think they have navigators there. They're gonna have the person at the front desk, and they're gonna just accept them, and then there's a wealth of information that's there that's not being recorded because it's just the way it always has been. But that doesn't mean this opportunity can't be taken advantage of.
Absolutely. Yep.
Okay. We're gonna get clarity on the clinics too, because there's people that have the function aligned with on doing this as well in the clinics. So we'll get a full report on what everybody does. We'll get the appropriate people here to talk about it. Cool. And then decide, is it, I guess that is a finance. I was trying to decide whether that's a managed care issue now. That would be us. Yeah. Yeah. Because. Okay. All right. Great. Keep going, Scott. We got off your report.
All right. Okay. So, capitation revenue favorable to budget due to higher than budgeted county care membership. So that remains a fact here. On the expense side, medical claims unfavorable to budget due to the same higher than budgeted county care membership. And then the health plan coming in unfavorable to budget, 32 million. Variance to budget due to the true up in IVNR reserves. And in addition, there were some payments at the end of the year that the team is still researching the eligibility before those funds get booked. So could be some upside to those numbers as we wrap up the numbers for the year. Membership remains over 418,000, so just over 20% greater than budget. Next slide, please. So closer look, the income statement here. So as we just start, the net patient service revenue unfavorable by just under 92 million, and then dropping down to the capitation, which is favorable by 763 million, bringing us to the overall favorable variance on the revenue line of 715 million. Looking at the expenses, salaries and benefits continue to be favorable to budget due to the unfilled positions. Supplies and pharmaceuticals unfavorable to budget, as well as the medical claims that I had mentioned earlier, unfavorable by 764 million. So between the favorability on the revenue line and the unfavorability on the expense line, bringing us to the overall favorable variance to budget of 52 million. So next slide, please. So looking at the volumes here, we've got average daily census at Stroger of 322, which is better than budget at 287. Provident effectively at target of 21 rather. ER visits favorable at both facilities, 12.2% at Stroger and 2% at Provident. And then surgeries at Stroger just over 2% favorable, and 7.2% unfavorable at Provident. But just as a reminder, we had a handful of providers that were budgeted to start at the beginning of the year. However, they didn't start until like the fourth quarter.
Are you talking about at Provident or overall?
Provident,
At Provident.
at Provident, yeah.
Yeah, so let's pause here for a second. I just want to get a sense, as we look at the ER visits and then the surgeries, which I can appreciate that you can't do the surgeries until you get the providers in the door. How are you guys seeing the expansion at Provident, both in ER visits and then other services as they flow up from the ER?
So ER has been doing well right now. What we're exploring is expanding our subspecialty care. That has been, I think, a bit of a barrier in terms of keeping people at Provident. So, ENT and, others where, they may not have the bandwidth to come over. We're exploring different options in terms of, is there virtual capability? Are they able to, send somebody over once a week, twice a week, whatever? We're having broader discussions around expanding general surgery, but then that cascades into, well, we need more anesthesia coverage. So it's complex. We're peeling it apart, but we're working to continue to expand at Providence. I think procedural coverage is the piece that we're really focusing on right now.
So sounds like, where were you projecting to be the 2% increase? Is that where you wanted to be, or is that a little slow for?
I'd love to do more. We're ahead of the budget, right? So, but I'd love to see a double digit there.
Yeah, I gotcha.
And then one of the other factors that came up was, supplies, surgical supplies. Was it the
IV fluids?
Yes.
Yeah, there were some changes. That was on the surgery schedule. So yeah, that's part of that, part of the driver in that unfavorable 7.2%.
okay?
They had to make some
This
schedule
moves
changes.
into operations, but opportunities to diversify suppliers may help,
Let's ask a question more on that, because that's an interesting point. To understand that the IV fluids are slowing down the surgeries, which create the revenue. It seems like that shouldn't be it. That shouldn't be the reason why we shouldn't have more surgeries.
Yeah, so by and large, it wasn't. There were about 2-3 weeks where it was very, very slim. But in general, the medical staff did a lot to really protect IV fluids on the floors. If people were taking oral intake, they were holding back on giving IV fluids. There was a lot of kind of change in clinical practice to really try to hold on to the surplus of IV fluids. That allowed us to continue. We really, I think, only, Craig, about a week had to pare back a lot of our, come on up, a lot of our procedures. I think this is probably more related, GI staffing has been a challenge that's driving procedural volume. So we're working to bring in temporary solutions in GI staffing. We've got to pull back on, I know. But to continue doing, scopes and such at Provident, right? So there's been a lot of work in how we shore up that staffing and ensure that we can continue doing the procedures.
So it wasn't related to the market shortage?
In terms of IV fluids, I think a very small part of it was, but yeah.
There was a nationwide shortage on IV fluid. So basically, the plant that provided like 75% of the IV fluid and that supply across the country was wiped out by the hurricane. And so we went into conservation mode, probably right around, right after the Thanksgiving holiday, early December. We did put a 1-week pause on elective surgical cases. We did open that back up the following week, with the exception of some urology and colorectal cases that use a great amount of the 3,000 milliliter bag. They almost use like 90 milliliters of fluid per case. So we didn't feel comfortable that we could bring those cases back, but that's not a huge volume, and it wouldn't be a big impact to this. But this was really a response to market shortages, not any issues with our internal supply chain.
Good to know. So the surgeons that we are bringing on board, we have brought them on board.
They're in process. Yeah, they should be on as of this week. So.
Oh, I thought they were on board last time.
No. Which surgeon?
For Provident, because this number that we're looking at seems fairly consistent. Sometimes it drops down to 5%, whatever the case may be. But I thought the issue concerning that number was that we had to hire the people. And I thought we said last meeting that we had hired the folks. Maybe I'm wrong.
It may have been in different surgeries. I don't remember which we were talking about, but I know we brought on additional GI doctors this week to continue the scope.
Okay.
Okay, and then, with the ACHN, primary care, just under 1% favorable, and, specialty care, 4.2% favorable. Next slide, please. So just to point out here, as you can see, our volumes over the last, few years have been, pretty stable. And then the top left-hand corner, you can see some increase, the overall trajectory is favorable in terms of inpatient admits and outpatient visits. Next slide, please. So moving into the revenue cycle here, we've got our payer mix, so Medicaid at 56.2%. So we did see a slight uptick in uncompensated as well of 0.3%. Next slide. Continuing the rev cycle, so as you may recall, we had, throughout the year, we had some red boxes here. Red boxes are all gone, either green or yellow. Still some more work to do in the AR days, particularly over 90, which hopefully will get resolved over the next couple of months. But as a reminder, we did have a fairly large quantity of claims that were denied for timely filing. Again, because of the Change Healthcare breach, excuse me. Next slide. So continuing along on the denials here, you can see in November we did see the denial percentage go over the benchmark of 2%. Same explanation as the prior slide, and we'd expect to be at or below the target in the next couple of months as those denied claims get reworked and they get paid.
I'm just curious on that.
Yeah.
When we look at this with the denials, is there like, when we see, if we look at the graph that you have here and we see the sickle and it goes down and below the control line that you want, is that a function of denials and then waiting for them to get checked and now suddenly get them?
So, Curtis Haley, Chief Revenue Officer, I can speak to this one. So the fluctuation of final denials is really a byproduct of our posting remits and actually getting the data to know, has our appeal been successful or not? And if it hasn't been appealed in that month, then we go ahead and we transact the denial write-off, which is what you're seeing here. The months of August through the end of the month was a catch-up of posting activity that was held from the Change Healthcare attack earlier in the year. So we had a lot of postings that were run through and that we were catching up on, and all depended on which files had the denials in them as we were posting them throughout the month. So I don't think that there's a true cyclical trend here, more of just a posting catch-up.
And the box is yellow because it's slightly above 2% now?
Absolutely.
Okay. But your straight line is almost 2%.
2% is the benchmark, is the best practice benchmark to be
Right,
at 2%
that's
or less.
smart, but if we took a straight line, if we actually did the statistics, would you come pretty much on that 2%?
Yeah. Yep.
Okay. That's what it looks like, but
yep.
again, this is not real, this is not scale, so I don't really know. Okay.
Okay, and then,
Way higher.
Yeah, and earlier in the year, we had a nice low trend, but we weren't posting all of our remits. We had that held, so.
We were way above we were about 10%.
Yeah.
At one time, so closer to 20. That was about 8 years ago, though. All right.
On charitable and public program expenditures here, so projecting 492 million. It's about 78 million over budget, most of which is is coming from the charity care line. Next slide, savings initiatives. So status is green for all the projects, with the exception of the revenue recovery project. However, as you may recall, that project kind of got out of the gate a little bit slow at the beginning of the year. However, caught up for the most part, but in aggregate, we are above our goal of 12 million. And then let's see, last slide here. The health plan, again, just showing the operating loss of 32 million. And also want to point out at the bottom there, as we're all familiar with, the county care membership continuing to be better than budget for the year. So with that, happy to answer any other questions you might have.
Any other questions for Scott or for Curtis, since we have Curtis up here again too? Hearing none, thank you, gentlemen. We're going to switch gears, and we're going to go to our monthly informational report on our agency reduction plan. It's going to be reviewed by Craig Williams, our Chief Administrative Officer, and Wynn Buren, our Chief Administrative Officer and our Chief Human Resources Officer. From what I understand, you guys have some exciting numbers to talk to us about.
I hope so.
The preview's true. I'm excited.
All right. Good morning. My name is Wynn Buren. I'm the Chief Human Resource Officer. I'm going to go through our current state of hiring and separations first before we dive into the agency numbers. There have been 297 offers made. From the 297 offers made, there have been 240 accepted offers. From the 240 accepted offers, 84 have been filled positions. This includes 17 internal candidates and 67 external candidates that have joined Cook County Health. Of the 297 offers made, 100 are general hires, and from the agency conversion, we have made 197 offers. Total accepted offers are 240. And through the agency conversion, we have 173 accepted offers. This fiscal year, 2025, the organization has seen 69 separations and 67 external new hires, resulting in an overall net loss of 2 employees at Cook County Health. Last year, this time, ending December 31st, 2023, the organization experienced 87 separations and 44 external hires, resulting in an overall net loss of 43. The net loss is due to an increase in retirements during the month of December. Cook County Health separations continue to trend down in alignment with the increased net hires, and we increased net hires over last year by 52%, 44 to 67. Next slide.
Hi, Craig Williams, Chief Administrative Officer. I think everyone's familiar with this data set. So the first top left-hand corner has been our progress around overall agency use across all departments. So that's nursing, every agent that we have, agency contract that we have across Cook County Health. So you can see in September, we started out at a little over 1,300 agency FTEs. We brought that down nicely in October and November, and we've had an increase of about 120 agency FTEs during the month of December. The majority of that change is related to nursing. I think about 110 of the 120 positions were nursing positions. In talking with Bina, that's really been, and we sort of see an increase in retirements at this time of the year, and so we've brought in more agents to cover those retirements, as well as to allow for orientation of those. So there's a little bit of overlap in the numbers. I would caution the group to get overly concerned about this increase month over month. I think we'll continue to see a downward trend, especially as we start to onboard these agency conversions. I'll pause there because folks might have a question about that, yes.
Yeah, it appears that the med tech and the transporters, we have the most agency people relative to those positions.
So that's not outside of nursing. So I do believe nurse RNs is still our highest agency. For the non-nursing, the highest numbers we have is in the building service workers, which are as our EVS, our clerks, which are the folks who are involved in working in our clinics, and medical assistants, which are the key support positions for the clinics.
You're talking about highest costs, I'm just looking at the ratios in terms of what the chart says.
So the chart just doesn't include the nursing FTEs, because we had been really focused on, with the inquiries that we've gotten from the unions. We already had a MOU in place with the nurses union, and we didn't have it with SEIU, RWDSU, and AFSCME. And so that's why the chart on the right really is focused on those three union contracts.
I think if Joe, correct me if I'm wrong.
Right.
I think you're looking at the ratio.
The ratio, right.
Yeah, so if you look at building service workers slash EVS, it's a little bit less than 2 to 1. And it looks like med tech and transporters are more, med tech looks like it's more, it's like 3 to 1, and transporters about a little bit more than 2 to 1.
Yeah.
So I think that's why he's saying that big ones ratio wise are med tech and transporter.
Sure, I appreciate that.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
So it's harder to find them work.
So it's
They're just
multifactorial.
basic, they're at
So-
a very
so
fundamental level.
We've looked at this in the past. I think the important on the building service workers, if you look at that ratio, the 2 to 1, the blue dot there is the budgeted position. So part of the challenge we had on the building service workers is that we needed additional PIDs to really fill our need, and so we were staffing some of our excess need with agency. We've been able to resolve that in the FY25 budget. We won't have that same problem. And when we look at the agency conversion that we've done, we've been highly successful in converting building service workers.
So let's look at where we're going with this. I don't know if you have a slide on that, but it seems like let's take SCIU. 188 applied, you made 188 offers, and 169 accepted. Those numbers seem really good.
Really good.
But I'm guessing that there's still more applications that could come in, because we get the PIDs we have are 545, our vacancies are 376. What is how many of the PIDs are actually filled in the SCIU line of work? Is it the difference between 545 and 376?
It is.
Okay, all right. So we're doubling our staff, a little bit less, or no, a little bit more than doubling our staff by doing this.
Yeah, I think that the methodology.
Did we add additional PIDs to absorb these people? Some of them, I believe that.
Yeah, we added 300 PIDs across these three unions. I think 225 of them were SEIU.
Okay.
And the process, Wynn and the HR team have reached out to all the agents and invited them to apply. It's a little bit, it's like herding cats and dogs. It's folks that we have relationships with, but they're not necessarily relationships with HR. And so we're trying to bring them all in and get them to apply.
Yeah, and to Greg's point, we're continuing to have SEIU and RWDSU focused hiring events to make sure that people get the message and then come on board. We had a good majority of folks in the first few weeks of this accept offers and take offers. So now we're reaching out to everybody else, whether we haven't got an answer yet or we're not sure that they were communicated with. We're trying to do really targeted outreach to these folks to make sure that over the course of the next few weeks, we continue to push this forward.
So maybe this is showing up somewhere else. One column I think that's missed on the HR agency conversion is how many people you guys get outreach to.
Okay.
So that would give us a sense of 188 applied. How many people did you reach out to?
Yeah, and I understand what you're saying. Technically, we've outreached to everybody. It's the
So what's that?
so out of we would say that we've reached out in some way, shape, or form to the 500 folks that are doing the work, right? I'm giving a lower number. Not everybody, for whatever reason, has been interested in actually applying, or they might be dragging their feet. So we want to continue to give them the opportunity to come on board.
How many of them, because we have a 1-year rule now, right? That you can only be, did we ever actualize that? You have a year, you can be the agency for a year, and after a year, you have to rotate out of those positions. The agency has to provide us with different people. You can't work here forever on agency, right?
So we've discussed that as a go forward from the start of all of this. Right?
Okay.
So we're not in a place right now, it's been like a month or two, right?
So that means that as people get closer to that buzzer, we may see an uptick too in people alerting themselves to the fact that they're getting closer to that date.
Right. There's another piece of that as well. So as you know, the agreements have a very specific date on when they had to be in place so that we could allow them this quicker onset to hiring. The other piece we're making sure that we put in place is as we start to, after we've gone through most of these offers, as we start to onboard new folks into the actual open position, we're going to do a 1-for-1 and let those agency folks go. So that might give us a little bit more of a incentive to go ahead and join. Because to your point, they can't stay on forever in that role.
I'm just going to go back to when all this happened in November. This was a very, I want to use the right word for this. This is a very elegant solution to the problem, because I think being on the representation side and some of the work that I've done in my past, I've never seen an employer actually work to deploy a system like this to help bring full-time employees on, and having that accountability because some employers would keep people on agency forever because they have less rights. They're more disposable in the mind of the employer, and converting people to full-time and bringing them up and giving them a better quality of life, I think is a good thing. And they make better, long-term, it makes better employees and better morale too. The 1-year time limit on it gives everybody incentive. It gives the worker incentive to make a life decision, gives the employer, we can't just keep rotating people out. We got to get full-time employees in here. So I really found this solution to be rather elegant.
Yeah, just to pick up on that, and going specifically to the med tech position, since they're coming through with an agency, they're making the same amount of money that our people would be getting, but we also have to pay the agency, so it comes to us at a higher cost. So that's what I'm trying to understand. Yeah. So we have this larger number of agency people, and we're paying both the individuals and we're paying the agency.
We're paying the agency, and the agency is paying the individual, but we pay a margin, or we pay profits to the agency, so they keep a piece of it and they pay the rest to the employee. We think the employee keeps about 65 to 70% of what we pay.
The thing about this too, Joe, is that the employee might not be getting the same type of health care that we provide here with the agency employee.
Right.
They're certainly not getting the pension, and the pension factor on this benefits the employee and the employer, because the way you reduce your pension liability is to have more people employed, because then the math on the actuarial analysis on the benefit makes more sense. So people who think they're running away from their pension liability by reducing their staff actually, triple their the problem that they have. So there's a lot of benefit going both ways. Maya?
I was going to wait for call for questions. Of course, this represents 7 of the highest utilized departments, but there are other departments with agency workers, right? is there an opportunity, and I think it may have come up in meetings before, to see the numbers on nursing, to see the numbers on physicians, and of course, I've asked before to see what's going on with that hectoring thing, as far as agency, who's in it. When is that gonna be added to this report?
So I think this, and Chair Ryder, I would ask for your input, but I think this was very much because of the immediate issues with the unions that we had in terms of agency utilization. I wonder when should we maybe build a more comprehensive report? I know Bina's report typically would go separately. Is this something that we bake into like the HR committee that just is kind of a broader update on agency use?
We can absolutely do that.
And then, did I just hear we're adding the GI docs? Are they agency or no?
Well, they're both the same thing, right?
Yeah, so when you look at kind of the salary, we have to pay based on this, I think that draws a different picture financially, since we're in the finance, meeting, it'll help us get a more clear understanding of what that looks like, because the payout for those positions is typically higher than what we're looking at right here.
Here's a question. This is the first time that I've heard about the 1 year, that they have to convert over or leave. Does that apply across the board, or is that specific to these particular
I
locations?
think we're looking at these conversion opportunities as being an additional thing that kind of puts a little bit of heat on, well, we need to decide, are you converting or are you gonna, roll off?
So that doesn't apply to the nurses or the physicians?
Not yet, but,
And then last question, just so I can have it on the meetings, I can start asking, are we gonna come back with a date on a timeline of when we're gonna start to get those comprehensive reports? And then I don't even have to ask you until that date.
We'll have more comprehensive reports for the next meeting.
Thank you.
so when is our HR meeting? When's the next HR?
Okay. Okay. Do we want that in HR, or do we want that in this meeting?
Well, I mean, the reason why this report's here in finance is because the amount of staffing contracts that we were going through on these departments. Obviously the nursing, the nurse registry contracts also come through here, but it is a sort of a different operating model, and we've actually had a lot of success on filling the thing that we've been doing is getting to meeting attrition on the nurse vacancies, which we achieved maybe 1.5 years, 2 years ago. And Bina's been reporting on that. On the locum tenens, that's, I don't know that does that flow through here? I don't remember. The locum tenens. Yeah, so
we can keep it here.
yeah, we can, so that would be, our next meeting is February 7th, so. Yeah, so how about this? We can aspire to do it on February 7th. If not, we could catch up in March.
Okay.
So, I don't think I want the committee to have data that's not complete, so get it all together.
And I think
Right.
that would include a kind of a revamp of these slides, because, some of these data points were to speak to the issue. And
They have different
as
rules,
the issue's
too.
evolving, right?
Yeah, and the most dramatic agency usage that we've had with large groups of people has been in this area. The only thing I would say is the RWDSU population is probably the smallest, but overall, yeah.
The other thing that I will add in terms of overall agency reduction efforts that we have underway. So, I think this originally rose from the 3 contracts we have, which are core, maximum, and cross-country, that come through this committee, which, have been coming through. And we're just about to create a new set of contracts for that same book of business. We are in process right now of looking at not just the union-covered positions that are coming through those contracts. We're actually looking at every position And what we were understanding with the leadership is, you know, do we have a PID for that position, and why do we have that? If we don't have a PID in a position approved in the budget, do we need to be planning for that in the future, or do we need to eliminate that role? So that work is happening, and, you know, my guess is that we'd be able to cut an additional 10 to 15% of our agency costs just by really going through that process.
Yeah,
Thank you.
we have agency in a lot of our administrative departments too, doing professional work.
Leadership managers, directors, yeah. We're looking at that as well. I just,
You had some.
so, and I want to make sure we don't miss kind of the key point here in that bottom left corner, and kudos to the team, right? But I think we're close to almost a full third of the current agency workers who've now been offered positions into CCH, so we're working through that to bring them on board at this point, but they've been accepted offers, so I think it's been a huge, I think in the 4 to 6 weeks that you guys have been working on this, it's been an incredible movement of the needle in terms of bringing people on, so well done.
I think you guys had to endure a lot I want to say it was probably about 6 months of putting together the plan. And while people were throwing tomatoes at you. I mean, the way once the plan was achieved and deployed, it's like not just stopping on the gas, it was like throwing the nitrous bottle at it too, so good job.
Let me ask you a question, because there's something I want to make sure I understand. There was a statement made about the amounts of money that we pay for these particular roles, and that is, we pay some percentage goes to the person, some percent goes to the agency.
Yep.
So this seems like it's different than what was stated for the nurses, where the nurses are being paid far above what the person here would be making. So they don't have the same advantage here. This is a question, because I don't know.
What I would say, it's a mixed bag. So, you know, when you look at the building service workers as an example, the money that we pay on average versus what the agency person receives is about the same. For other areas like the med techs, we know that right now the market has moved faster than what our salaries have moved. And as part of the renegotiation with the unions, we're going to need to address those salary levels. And so the contract labor folks that are in the med tech positions are taking home, we think, more dollars than what our folks are making. And we need to address that. And so that's part of this, you know, in terms of the 376 people that we're reaching out to and half responding, some of them aren't going to respond because we're not able to make them offers that are going to be compelling at this point in time. That will get resolved as we get through some of these
I would add
contracts.
the other piece that's kind of the X factor, if you will, is whether or not they need benefits. A lot of times, even if the money is the same, the benefits that we would offer, they may be in a position where, you know, a spouse is making, they're in a role that is giving them health insurance, so they'd rather get those few extra dollars instead of covering health insurance, right? They take home a
Which
little
from
bit
their
more. So.
perspective makes sense.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
But
Really
the question,
start looking at secondary coverage and how that can wipe away everything else.
the other question is, with the year being placed on them before they have to rotate out, is there a concern that the agency may not be able to fill the ranks, and then the position that we need is no longer available? Just a question.
I have that concern in the back of my mind, that there's some really specialized positions that, you know, so I think we're going to have to, I think the 1 year is very logical, because there's some very non-specialized positions that people have been here for a long time, and we need to fix that. I think that there are some specialized positions that we're going to have to look at and figure out, is that an exception basis or whatever. But, you know, I think logically, the analysis always has to be, you know, are we not able to provide care? Are we losing money by making this decision, right? And that's how I think we balance things. I'm out over my skis here, but that's, I think, how we think about it.
Well, as long as you're having an open discussion with everybody, and we're talking to all of our partners, then, yeah, we can make tweaks and adjustments along the way. I positions that are, or especially medical positions that are outside of our doctors and nurses. So, but yeah, there's, the collective bargaining agreement 2 years ago, upgraded the wages in some of these areas, and, the market still walked away from that, because we made considerable increases to some of them, and we have more work to do, and that's just that's the state of healthcare and the way people are working and things that are in demand coming out of the pandemic and, other adjustments.
Craig, bend your knees and adjust your weight. Bring those skis back under control.
Thanks.
All right. Okay, great. Well, and then this report is gonna go to the county board, the health and hospital. I mean, specifically, I know it goes part of the minutes, but let's make sure we also send it separately to the health and hospital.
I believe it's reported quarterly to health.
Oh, quarterly?
I believe
Okay.
so.
All right, but it'll also be part of our minutes.
Goes every month.
Yeah. But we're also giving a monthly report to our labor partners. We're gonna send them this.
Yeah, we actually sent a report earlier this week. It was doing the 15th SCIU and RWDSU, so we sent them something on their separate cover.
Okay. I just want to be on record because I, as someone was in the middle of the conversation, getting everybody on the same page, I want to make sure we're doing everything we need to do, so.
And then the reporting, kind of what you all were saying, this report would stay like this, and then there would be a separate report that was more comprehensive, a separate slide that was more comprehensive, right? Because if you have to,
Yeah, I think this slide still needs to be tweaked, but then we could also add nurse, agency, and doctor things.
and the transition.
Yeah.
Thank you, I appreciate it.
All right. Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
548.
So there is one more slide. I think it's a little bit redundant to the positions that we already, and that's why we didn't present it, but if there's any questions on this slide, I'm happy to address them. Thanks. Thanks for keeping us honest.
All right. With the conclusion of that report, the meeting, we've exhausted the agenda, the meeting's adjourned. Thank you, everybody.